you found a new YouTuber that you really enjoy, who told you all about game development, and now you are a game
I'm a game developer now. Yeah, I
professional.
learned this morning. Yeah, I actually have a game coming out tomorrow. No, I don't. But this guy is a developer, okay? But clearly he's been doing YouTube for a while. He's got a big following. He's got like a big following. I've never seen this guy, but he popped up in my feed and he was talking about the Mario Kart 9 footage that we saw. I'm like, okay, I'm going to check this out. The very first thing he kind of talks about is physically based shaders, okay? Now, I didn't know what that was. He explains it in the video very well. I have this monitor in front of me, and you're seeing me on camera right now, right? So if I have something that pops up on my screen that's bright, you'll see that reflect onto my face, right?
Yeah.
So that, in a video game, that would be a physically based shader. It's basically other things that affect other things. You know what I mean? Like if the sun's hitting the ground and there's something looking down at the ground, you would see maybe a reflection, kind of the color of the ground going up on your face.
Right.
So that's basically the first thing he said when he looks into some of this stuff is like, you can see that they're doing that in this game, which is not something they were doing with the Switch 1, because he talks about these types of things being, how does he say it? He says that they're expensive, but expensive as far as like
resources
using, for the operating system, like how much of the operating system you're actually using. This is big stuff. To do this on the Switch would have taken a ton, but they're doing it here and they're doing it with everything. Like everything is using physically based shaders. You can tell when you see the way you can see it when Mario drives by, you can tell on the shadows under his face that it does have a little bit of a warm hue, which is coming off of the dirt that he's on, because it changes as he goes from the dirt. I mean, it's very interesting stuff. So that is happening. That is one thing that the Switch could not do.
Question for you is that you may have already said it, but I didn't hear. Is that related to ray tracing at all? Is it like a distant cousin of the ray tracing?
He didn't specifically mention ray tracing, but I do want to also I mentioned this in the video because this is also interesting. In his video, he says that he's under NDA. So he has to be very careful about what he says.
Well,
so it's like if you're under NDA, but you're still making videos like something good. You know what I mean? Like you're not just gonna sit here and like something good, or you wouldn't be so excited about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So nothing like that going on in Mario Kart 8. Not even close. This is the problem that developers had with the Switch, which looks like we're not gonna have that problem anymore with the Switch, because he said just by kind of looking at this stuff and some of the other stuff that I'm saying here, all the rumors we hear about the 12 to 16 gigabytes of RAM, he said that's basically confirmed here, because this stuff would not be happening if you didn't. Yeah, it would not be happening if you didn't have that. A lot of the times, you see this in a lot of Switch games. Basically, you will see things close, have more detail, but the further away they are, they kind of lose a lot of detail, and then you can kind of see it like snap in and start doing what it's supposed to do. That happens a lot. Pokemon is a good example of that. You can really see it in the Pokemon games. And usually the textures are changed. And with the Switch, you're really not using a lot of really high resolution textures all at once, because, again, that's very expensive on the system to use that. If you look at this, and this developer has looked into this very, very closely, basically every single thing on the screen is using a high definition texture. And not only that, different types of high definition textures inside of each other. Like, this is some really in-depth shit that's happening on screen.
You mean if it's not just a PNG spread out across a bumpy surface? The
road has different, like, if you look at the middle of the road, it's like, it's in a desert. So it's all cracked in the middle of the road. But then as you go out, it's like, you can see where it kind of like fades out to where the cars have been running on it and it's all worn down. Like, there's a lot of shit going on, but it's not just the road. It's not just the characters. It's not just the carts. It's literally every single thing.
Yeah.
And it's basically as far as you can see.
So I think what we can conclude here is not necessarily this is groundbreaking stuff. It's just Nintendo's catching up finally. Like, this is this is where gaming is gone. I mean, we've been here already, but Switch people have not.
And this is even more confirmation of that. Not me looking at this. This is a developer, somebody who knows what they're talking about, develops games. He says there's something being used in this entire thing we see in Mario Kart 9 here. It's called volumetric lighting. Okay?
Yep.
This is a big deal. This is very, very expensive on the system. This is very expensive stuff. You need Lots of stuff happening in there to be able to do this. If you were to try to do this on the Switch, just using the volumetric lighting by itself without doing all the other stuff, this guy's saying like you would get maybe 15 frames a second. That's just the volumetric lighting.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 frames a second on the Switch. You probably wouldn't even be able to run it. But this is doing it throughout the entire front to back, basically. Usually you see, like I said, those shadows and stuff. Also, shadows of things, very expensive. But you can see, if you look at the big scene where it kind of cuts out there and you can see way down the road. If you look, there are still high definition shadows on everything that you can see in frame. Everything. And it's doing that from front to back. And it's using volumetric lighting, which a lot of that is also, if you look in the distance, it kind of looks hazy out there, sort of.
Yep.
But it looks real. If you look at Mario Kart 8...
It's not a blur. It's an intentional haze.
Well, that's what they used in Mario Kart 8, which was basically distance fog is what it's called, and bloom. So you're basically faking volumetric lighting.
Yeah.
At that point. But now...
Which is smart. Look good.
Right, yeah, and you have to do it, and that's these are the hurdles that the developers had to deal with on the Switch, but that they're not going to have to deal with on the Switch too, clearly. These are not issues anymore. So all the big issues of games we have seen through this right here, just this guy breaking down this little bit of footage, all the things that they had to take away on the Switch are present in this game. So all the big problems that developers had that made them really scrape out all the stuff that made the games look the way they did on the Switch just to be able to run. I mean, he's saying this is a massive deal. Like, this is huge. This is absolutely the main problem that the Switch 1 had, and it seems to be solved. So, I mean, basically what we're kind of seeing here is that we should not have any problem getting any game on the Switch 2 at this point. Now, is it going to look PS5 level, PC level? No, obviously not. But any of these games are going to be able to run pretty damn well on the Switch 2 from what we're seeing here. You're not going to have to worry about that impossible port like The Witcher 3 for the Switch when we saw like, oh my God, and it came and it was still like, yeah.
And it took a year of updates to even get there.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, it's there. That's cool that it's there. We're not going to have those issues anymore. Because all the problems that the Switch had, that the developers had to deal with, that they could not overcome because it just didn't have it, it's solved. So that's super exciting. Like, that's very, very exciting.
It's not something, that's all things that I already expected. But the fact that I'm hearing a developer who knows his stuff talk about these things and say, yeah, this thing has power. This is confirmed. You know, not that wasn't already pretty obvious with the number 2 being slapped on the end of Switch. This is an iteration that's better than the past iteration, and it's going to perform better. That's where it's improving. There's no crazy gimmick. There's no 3-screen setup or nothing stupid like that, except the mouses. But we'll get to that probably at a later date.
Yeah, and there's one more other tiny thing I actually did forget. If you look at the flags in those 2 little scenes they show, they are all using real cloth simulation. They are not pre-rendered animations, which is a huge.
They get choppy
deal.
when you go away.
Huge deal.
When you leave the area, they get choppy and come back.
They just stop.
Or that too.
Yeah,
Fucking
and then
Pokemon.
They get choppy when you get closer, and then they start doing the thing. But they're all flapping exactly the same. If you look at these flags, they all have real-time cloth simulation. They're all doing their own thing, like in whatever simulated area of wind or like that's huge. Like the Switch couldn't do that. Yeah, it could not do that.
Shout out to Pokemon who was the worst defender of every Switch game. You
oh my God, yeah,
imagine.
Same guy. Yeah, we need to link his stuff below. He actually put out another video talking directly about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and he was in an area where there's some flags like that, and he was using that example. Like they're on the hill, and you can see the ones in the distance. They are literally just stopped. They don't do anything. And then the ones up on the hill close to you, they like go like this. They're both exactly the same.
Dude,
those are
my
pre-rendered animations that just sit there. Those are easy, cheap. You know what I mean? You can throw those in anywhere.
So I played the game. I actually played it. I played 110 hours in 2 weeks. Like I played the freaking game. Scarlet and Violet, that is. And the biggest offender I think I saw in the game outside of like lighting glitches, which were literally spanned from the mountaintops to where you're standing, like the entire sections like that would glitch with the light, like on-off type glitch.
Go ahead, but I can talk about that a little bit too.
The biggest offender was like those windmills in that one area in Pokemon. I don't remember what it was called, but like even when you were close to them, they were choppy. Even when you were right next to them, they were choppy. But you get farther away.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of the stuff that the stuff that he was saying too was even whenever you get into like a battle, like when you get into one of the battle screens, like you'll notice sometimes the shadows will just disappear.
Yep.
Like things just disappear. And that's happening. Like, believe it or not,
the ground would disappear. That's one of the biggest bugs in the game.
And some of the times, like it's picking the wrong thing, but that's on purpose, unfortunately. It's on purpose. And that's, I think, I feel bad, honestly. I feel bad. As much shit as I talked on Game Freak and like the development of those games, like from a developer, he's like, you can tell they tried really hard to get anything that they could get out of this. He said they probably spent 40% of their time just trying to optimize this game to get it to be where it is right now.
That's interesting to me. That because like it doesn't look like that at all, and and they're taking things away, like shit on Pokemon for that reason. For Game Freak's quote lack of effort or whatever we were talking about back, when that was
and it turns out it looks like they probably put a ton of effort, but not into the game, into just getting it to even be able to run.
I mean, that's this is a whole different conversation. But how did we even get there, Pokemon? How did we get to the point with that game? How did Game Freak get to that point where they made a game that was too ambitious in the first place, and they had to scale back, and that's what we were left with. We were left with, because it looks like it turns into the opposite. Like when you look at it from face value, it looks like they just didn't put any effort into it, and it was a cash grab. But it sounds like their effort was wasted, and they had to scale back to even put it on the system, and there wasn't enough time to scrap and restart or whatever you normally would do in that situation.
Well, because basically, I mean, from a developer standpoint, his idea is that they probably spent a lot of time optimizing and trying to get it to run because they started out with something that was way too ambitious for the hardware to begin with.
But it doesn't make any sense because, like, hello, Zelda. Like, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. You're going to sit here and tell me that Tears of the Kingdom is less ambitious, hardware, like performance-wise and game-wise than Pokemon? Now, I've in the past I've heard the argument that like Pokemon, there's so many sprites and they're all over the world, and it's hard to keep up with those things. Which maybe that is partly true. I used to completely denounce that fact, and maybe like the Pokemon being out and about in the world, and the fact that there's like 1,000 Pokemon that they have to have in this game or whatever it was, I forget how many it was, but that is, maybe that has something to do with
a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, more than I gave it credit for. I still love the game. I also hate it. It's like it's like an in-law. Pokemon is like an in-law to me. You love it. You've been there. But maybe get away for a little bit,
Well, I mean, but back to the Mario Kart thing. I mean, another little thing we saw, not in that, but like 24 carts might be supported.
Man,
24 people at once.
Can I tell you how excited?
Can you imagine?
Can I tell you how excited I am for the possibility of 24 players at once?
Like, that's nuts. That would be crazy.
We're officially in Battle Royale territory. We're no longer just in Mario Kart racing. We're now in Battle Royale.
Could you imagine the battle
Mario
mode,
Kart.
but it's just Battle Royale, like elimination style with 24, 25
elimination
people?
style. If you get shelled, you're out. Which could be fun.
I mean, even in the battle arena, it's just like the battle mode when you're in the arenas and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I forgot about battle. Yeah, there is literally a battle mode.
There's actually a battle mode. Like,
it's actual Battle Royale. Man, and this is not the episode for this. I wanted to. I think I did talk about my thoughts already about like Mario Kart the live service, which I think the game should be. That's going to be its own dedicated episode in the future, for sure. Well, we're going to expand more.
Next week we're going to talk about games and stuff. We got to get into the games that we're going to see this year. Lots of leaks with that.
Mario Kart will get its own day for sure, but we want to talk about this Mario Kart in the future tonight. That's really exciting.
Nintendo, every single show. Dreadlocks Zelda, cheatless is